What's up, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Starting off with Patreon questions, Anthony C. asks if Cassian being in this fight since he was 6 years old has been retconned.
No, I don't think so at all. I just don't think we've seen his full past. I think that's it.
So, just today I was watching the Star Wars show, and Diego Luna kind of talks a little bit about this, but when he says that line, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old, you could take that as he has been fighting for his own life since then.
Yeah.
So not specifically part of that rebellion, but we don't know when, he lost his actual parents, how long he's been on that island.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah.
And I totally agree that it doesn't mean I've been fighting the Empire since I was 6, even though I don't think it counts anymore. The reference books, the visual guide for Rogue One said that he fought against the Separatists first, or fought with the Separatists against the Republic. So I think that what he means is I have been fighting against oppression since I was 6. And we're used to viewing the Republic as the good guys, but there's a reason the Clone Wars happened and that there was a separatist movement, is that they felt that they weren't being treated fairly by the Republic and wanted to secede. So we haven't seen that yet, I don't think. But yeah, the fact that even Diego Luna brought it up in a video we saw today makes me know that that line is on their minds. Mm-hmm. And they might not explore what his life was like when he was 6, but just because we don't see it doesn't mean that it didn't happen in some form.
Also, in the heat of an argument, the older you get, the less accurate you can recall things. So for all he knows, he was 6 when he started that fight.
Yeah, it's one we've made that joke before for Yoda, because people will ask the question he says he's been training Jedi for 800 years, but he's only 900. So it seems like one of those things where Yoda could be, that number goes up every time. He's really been training Jedi for 400 years, but then it became 500 and 600. And Luke doesn't know, so he's 800 years I've trained Jedi. It could be the same thing. And I know that I get stuck in that mindset too of, okay, a character said something and that makes it true in this universe, but it doesn't. These are people who are just talking, mm-hmm. and they can be wrong. And so I think that's a really great point, is that, yeah, he's whatever, I've been in this fight since I was way younger than you, and he just threw a number out. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think the point is he has been in this fight since he was young. That's still true. We've still seen it on screen, and there's still more to learn.
Framed Citizen wants to know why there weren't subtitles for the Qunari language, and if we liked that.
I thought that was kind of a nice build-off of talking about Cassian's youth. I actually do like that quite a bit. I mean, I was surprised, and I remember when we turned the subtitles on and it just says, speaking Kenari, and I was like, okay.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. But I do like it.
I do too. I think from what we've seen on Kenari so far, Kenari, however you say it.
Twi'lek.
From what we've seen from that timeline so far, they're getting the point across. We know kind of generally what's happening there. I think they're purposely not giving us the exact words so we can kind of slowly learn his backstory.
Exactly. I think that this is a mystery that they are rolling out. I think all of this stuff has been purposeful. I remember when the first episodes came out and people were like, oh, they made a mistake and they put the Separatist patch on, but then they called them Republic officers. It's that's not a mistake. You're supposed to notice that. And we're supposed to have those questions. And I think that them not getting subtitles is part of us trying to play with that and figure out what the solution is. And we'll figure it out, probably. We might not. But the way that they are deliberately keeping information from us and posing these questions, I do think that we are going to learn more and more about Cassian's past. Like Molly has brought up, why does it have to be a secret that he was from Kenari? That's another question that I think we're going to find out over the course of the season or both seasons or whatever. But I think it's fun to have just the context of Cassian comes up, or Cassa, tries to put on war paint. The older kid smacks his hand, and then the other older kid says something. It's like, no, it's okay. He's old enough. Like, trying to just figure out what's going on in their culture without having it literally spelled out for us.
Audrey asks how we think Luthen's character will progress in the series.
He's another one that's just a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Like, who is he? Which one is his real life? Is it the one wearing the wig or the one outside of the wig? Or...
Which wig is he going to wear today?
Yeah, how many wigs does he have? We don't know. He has a whole closet full of stuff.
Yeah.
So
his character is very mysterious to me, and I love the way he's playing these other characters in his life. Like he's got, you know, the guy who he first met, Cassian, and then he's got his like other persona with the wig, and he's very like flowery with his gestures and stuff like that. So who knows how many sides there are to him?
Well, I would say we even saw a different side of him when he was talking to Vel alone, where, you know, with Cassian, he's like, here's a down payment. I want this back. And then talking to Vel, he's like, he's disposable. I don't know which way he really feels. I want to believe that he thinks Cassian's going to make it out of this. Mm-hmm. That, like, that's why he gave him the Kyber crystal. But I don't know. And I kind of see him right now as being the middle ground between Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera, who we know we're going to see later, but Mon Mothma being like the idealized version of the Rebel Alliance, Saw Gerrera being the version that is fighting what it hates and just wants to cause pain. And we even learned in episode 4, it's like, they'll cut your head off if you fall asleep on watch duty. Like I see Luthen as maybe being in the middle right now, and they could have something to say about that. Tony Gilroy might have something to say about the middle ground people and why Mon Mothma is necessary if you're revolting like this, or a character like that to help lead.
Yeah. I think he's gonna die.
I imagine so. I don't know if it's this season, but I don't think he's gonna make it out of this series. Because
you know, we can already see the beginnings of him inspiring Cassian to become who we see him as in Rogue One. And there's also that line where Mon Mothma is talking to him in like the back of his shop, and she says, "I'll be the first to fall." And that seems a little like foreshadowing to where she's not going to be the first of all. Like he would go first. Mm.
Yeah, that's why we like him so much, I think, is because he is new. We have no idea where his story is headed. And every new little piece of information we learn about him is a lot of fun. So yeah, I think you might be right that this season might be his only season.
Continuing with Luthen's story, Jedi Boss wants to know if he has a strong connection to the Jedi.
Because he had that Kyber crystal, he gave it to Cassian. We also know he has a Jedi holocron. He also has a Sith holocron. So that's interesting. I don't really think he has any connection to the Jedi. I don't think he was one. I don't think he's Force sensitive. I just think he is a student of history. That's the way I view it.
I think of him a little bit like Maz Kanata. Obviously, he's not as old as she is, but the way she talks about the Jedi, the Sith, like she knows the stories, she knows the history that's there. I think he also knows about a lot of the stuff going on with the Jedi, but I don't think he's buddies with any of them.
I could see him getting along with Maz, actually. Someone who is like, yeah, I mean, Maz was Force sensitive, not a Jedi, not a Sith, was a pirate queen. So yeah, I could see him being someone who has that knowledge, but is someone who will keep Jedi and Sith artifacts. And again, like, I guess I'm seeing a bunch of stuff that seems like there's a balance with him, and not necessarily a good one. It's just like he is in the middle. I don't mean like balance in the Force kind of balance. Something else I wanted to point out is Rick Villanueva shot me a DM and said that it looked like all of the artifacts, or a lot of them in his antiquities shop, were taken from other planets that the Empire had subjugated. And I was like, that is an interesting thought. We have Mandalore, Kashyyyk, maybe Dathomir, Naboo, maybe not subjugated, but, Palpatine was from Naboo, and just a lot of artifacts that kind of symbolized the Empire's reign and taking over the galaxy. I just thought that was interesting.
I feel like that's the same as, like, gift shops in the South selling stuff with the Confederate flag on it. It's like, they're gonna show that kind of stuff off to make the people of Coruscant, the people of the Empire, feel better about themselves.
Yeah, I guess. Living in the South where Stone Mountain looms large, it's like, yeah, that's pretty relevant.
Guiguio asks if our understanding of the flashback scenes has changed now that we know they take place before the Clone Wars.
Shout out to Sooner Thrawn, who last week asked if those flashbacks could have taken place before the Clone Wars, and I was like, I hadn't even considered that. I just assumed Separatist patch, it's during the Clone Wars. And then the episode guide said, no, it actually does take place before the Clone Wars, so probably before the Confederacy of Independent Systems exists. That patch obviously goes on to become their emblem, but at that point, it does seem like they were Republic officers. So that is interesting.
It is interesting. It doesn't change my thoughts on that scene, really.
Yeah.
Or the flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it just answers the question, why did she call them Republic officers when they were wearing Separatist patches? It adds more questions to the mystery. I still want to see all of that unfold, but yeah, it seems like Marva is not a fan of the Republic and would line up with the idea that Cassian fought with the Separatists during the Clone Wars, which he did mention fighting on Mimban, and our friends at Force Center Podcast speculated that could be a fight during the Clone Wars. We don't know. I assumed it would be like when Han Solo fought on Mimban, but it very well could have been that he fought there during the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and I guess it is important to know that it is before the Clone Wars started so that we know that Cassian has at least been in the fight since, like, right before the Clone Wars started.
Right. And we know we're going to see clone troopers. That was in trailers. So that all might be Clone Wars era flashbacks. We might see why Cassian joins the fight against the Republic. We don't know, but I hope we find that out soon. I think we'll probably have to wait until the third arc, but I'm intrigued.
Rick Villanueva wants to know what our expectations for Phase 2 of the High Republic are.
I will say that I have read Path of Deceit. That's the book that comes out on Tuesday. I won't spoil anything about it, but I will
Let
just say...
me tell you all about
so
it.
Here's everything that happens. I enjoyed it. I'll have the full review out on Tuesday. I will just say, to help set up, if you're a fan of the High Republic Phase 1, I think you'll enjoy the High Republic Phase 2. If you didn't dig Phase 1, I don't think Phase 2 is really going to change your mind. It is very much like more of the same. It makes sense. Like, all of this was planned out ahead of time. So yeah, I guess I'm just expecting to meet some new characters or see some old characters from Phase 1 when they were younger, and get to enjoy them even more, so that in Phase 3, when they die horribly, I'll be that much more heartbroken.
Ugh, that's gonna hurt. Really, my only expectations for Phase 2 is to find out more about the Nameless. That's about it. And like, what happened on Dalna.
Yeah, and I do think both of those things are going to get answered. They teased them well enough, and then at the end of Midnight Horizon in Phase 1, Yoda's like, we have to look to our past to answer questions about our present. So I think that's exactly what Phase 2 is meant to do, and Path of Deceit gets us off to a good start on that.
On to YouTube questions, Son of Kratos asks if the members of Rogue One would have received medals after the destruction of the Death Star along with Luke and Han.
I have to assume they would have. Either that or they get court-martialed. I'm sure they would not have.
I guess they would need to also get medals, but like, they can't give medals to everyone.
But that's a pretty big deal. Like, they wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to destroy the Death Star had they not done what they did.
That's true. I don't know. I would be afraid that too many people in that room would know them as, the what does he call them? The saboteurs, assassins, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like politics might get in the way for a few people. Be like, y'all don't get medals.
Aw.
Good job, though.
No, they deserve them. Jyn?
I'm saying they do, but for the show of it all, I'm saying they probably wouldn't have gotten them.
Yeah. I think that they probably only have 2 medals to give, and that's why Chewie does get a medal, I know. But that we only see Han and Luke get medals. Wedge isn't up there. Yvonne Verlaine isn't up there. More pilots than just Luke and Han did that. But obviously it's just like, for the story purposes, it's about the arcs that Luke and Han went through. It's like, hey, you became less selfish. Here's a medal. But now it's always raised questions of like, where's Chewie's medal? Well, he didn't really have an arc in A New Hope. He was just kind of there. Wedge wasn't a character that everyone loved in 1977. So it's funny to see that spiral out now. But I'm just going to say they only had a set number of medals, and they had to draw straws to see who got them. And Wedge drew the short straw.
Well, it happens all the time in history that something happens, a war or something or other happens, and the victors are held on this pedestal, but the real victors are not really in the limelight. And find out about them later.
I'm now imagining Wedge like, excuse me, I've been in this rebellion for like 3 years at this point. I defected from the Empire. I risked my life to come here. These 2 people who just showed up, they get the medal? I don't get a medal?
These 2 ding-dongs?
Yeah. They just got here.
If they had seen the way they acted on the Death Star before Leia was like, get your stuff together.
They just failed upwards to the highest degree. Wedge sitting there alone outside like, I don't get a medal.
Your heroes aren't really your heroes, folks.
This is some poodoo.
Jedi Spartan 38 wants to know if the Imperial mining disaster on Kenari is just propaganda.
100%.
Probably. I mean, there could have been a mining disaster, but I'm sure there was more to it than that.
I'm going to say it's either complete propaganda, and, just like in Rogue One when they say Jedha was destroyed in a mining accident. Okay, fine. So, like, it seems like that's just the Imperial line. Or this is the Imperial mining accident that they're like, oh, we can just use that for everything.
Yeah, the one that started all the other rumors. I mean, from the looks of it, it looked like there was mining happening there. And it looked kind of abandoned, like something terrible happened. So I think there was a disaster, but there was definitely more to it than that.
It's just the Imperial catch-all for like, oops, we destroyed it. And they're just going to try to hide it. But yeah, it's a viable lie because there was mining there before the time of the Clone Wars, whether that was Republic or Separatist movement or what have you. And there was mining on Jedha as well for Kyber crystals. So again, like, it works, but I think there's something else that happened. Again, like Molly has brought up, why do you have to keep it a secret that Cassian is from Kenari? Basically, I think the Empire did something there and they want to keep it quiet. And the whole mining accident thing is another little breadcrumb to that.
Hugo Ease asks if all Star Wars actors should sign over their voice and likeness to Lucasfilm moving forward.
Yeah, so James Earl Jones has retired from acting and he gave permission for his voice to be artificially created moving forward. I think that is obviously, that's his choice, and I will abide by his choice. I think that's true for any actor that decides to do that. I don't think it should be required. Like, I don't know, all the deepfake stuff and the artificially generated voices, to me it starts getting into Jurassic Park territory of like, it's really neat that we can do this. I don't know if we should be doing it all the time, especially.
Yeah, the way this question is worded just sounds a little extreme. Like, just the idea that anyone in Star Wars has to sign that stuff away for the rest of eternity. I think within people's contracts, you could say yes to something like this for a certain amount of time with exceptions.
Right. And I don't think they are making a habit of doing that, of like, hey, Pedro Pascal, your face is ours from now on, forever. I don't think they're doing that. It's more just little case-by-case things, like Mark Hamill, who, again, is involved, and his voice is being artificially generated. They're using deep fakes. Like, obviously, they have his full permission. And I think as long as an actor consents to that, okay. But it just starts to get into that dicey, like, I trust Lucasfilm to use this technology well, but I don't trust the world to.
Yeah. It's different because with James Earl Jones, it's pretty much just his voice. Mm-hmm. We don't see his face as himself as the actor. And I think it might also depend on how well loved a character becomes over time. Like, they didn't think characters like Vader would just be an instant hit when it came out.
I mean, in 1977, everyone was like, this is going to bomb. So
Yeah. So they didn't know back then that this would still be going on to this day. Yeah. Mark Hamill has always been a big supporter of the franchise, so he's been kind of on board with a lot of stuff over the years. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is something that could possibly come up with actors like Daisy Ridley and the sequel trilogy actors, but maybe years down the line.
Yeah. And I mean, also Vader is kind of a weird one. Like, I get it. On one hand, it's nice that, James Earl Jones will still be voicing Darth Vader, but also it's not a difficult voice to imitate when it goes through all those filters. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like they could have just recast Vader, someone that did a good impression, and it wouldn't be that hard to trick us.
Yeah.
But it's like, I do think that it is a nice gesture to James Earl Jones to be like, you created this voice and we are going to keep it you. So there are pros and cons. I'm just afraid that someday, like, when everyone is able to use this technology that was developed for neat movies, it's going to be trouble.
Yeah, it could easily fall into the wrong hands and be used for evil. So
also, this is not just a Lucasfilm thing. I saw earlier today, I think Bruce Willis signed over his likeness to a deepfake company. So this is not just like, be careful, Lucasfilm. This is like, be careful, entire movie industry.
Yeah, I mean, like, all the big Marvel characters have this same idea kind of looming over their heads. I'm
sure they do. And I mean, we know, just based off of descriptions from the leaked Indy trailer, there is a de-aged Harrison Ford, which again, he was there. He gave his full permission. I don't know. It's just something that we'll have to see how it all plays out. But I'm hesitant to like really go gung-ho at this technology for everyone.
Yeah, it's scary stuff when you really think about it. And as the actor involved, it has the potential of being a ball and chain for the rest of your life, which is kind of scary.
That's all the time for questions we have today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.